So my name is Rick Jester. I am a software engineer, I guess is my official title, but I do kind of the technical education here at Toshiba Global Commerce. So we are using Instruqt for all of our education for our newest product. It's called ELERA, and it is, so it's a point of sale application, and we're using it to teach people how to configure it, how to use it, and how to even do development work on it. About a year and a half ago, my manager and I were trying to figure out a way that we could more quickly teach everyone. So we started looking at all the different options out there, and we came across Instruqt. So we contacted them and showed us what it could do, and then had us go through the boot camp and kind of test it out. And that probably took about 3 months for us to go through all the testing and make sure it could do everything we needed it to. And then when it did, we quickly started building content, and it's gone well. Prior to Instruqt, it really was that either we had to get clients to come here and spend a week prepping and setting up with all of the equipment that they would need, and the instructor would, a week of their prep and then a week of their time sitting in the classroom and working with them, or it was shipping thousands of dollars worth of equipment to a site where we would then meet with that client and help them. And so it was a lot of money, a lot of time, and it wasn't always kind of reusable easily. So it was, this constant, are we at the latest? Is it easy to upgrade? Is everything working? So it was always very frustrating. And then moving to Instruqt kind of got rid of all of that because, well, learners, one, can learn whenever, wherever they are. They don't have to come here. We don't have to go there. We can easily set up the environment and they can just start learning. I've had several opportunities where I've been working with people in Latin America and over in Europe and, teaching them, showing them, and they just log in and they do it, and like no travel. The ease with which they can get trained is so nice, and the cost is, we don't have to ship everything everywhere, and then the time of setting it all up and making it work. We know it works because if it works here, it'll work everywhere because it's in the cloud, so it's fantastic. We deal with some of the largest retailers in the world, and having to go to their headquarters, on average we were doing 2 to 3 trainings here, and then as demanded and as requested around the world. And so that could be 6 or 8 possible other trips just to go out and set up. And like I said, anytime you're going, it's, you've got to be there multiple days ahead, get through that setup and then through the training. It was a lot. And yeah, it's way easier now. It's just so different. It's just the ability to train hundreds of people in a week instead of we only have capacity for 30. And you've got to wait another 4 months before you can get trained, or you've got to pay us so that we can come out and get you trained. And now we can just train anyone anywhere. And that, just that ability in and of itself is worth, it's priceless. Some of the biggest things that made Instruqt stand out: the ability for the user to get that immediate feedback, the ability to check their work as they're going, that was huge. Ease of setting it up. I say that like it's not hard. There are obviously some complications with building out the back ends and get everything running, but honestly it was relatively simple compared to some of the other solutions we looked at as well. Instruqt had a lot of stuff kind of ready to go for us, and the help and support we got through the trial. We ran into a couple hiccups here and there, and they just stepped right up and they said, sure, we'll get that solved for you. And there was no question. We weren't even a paying customer at the time, and they were still giving us great support and helping us out. And so those things kind of really helped to solidify our choice to go with Instruqt. The ability for the user to know what they did wrong. As someone who's taught a lot of courses, when they're there, they can ask you those questions. But when you're doing a virtual learning environment, there's not always someone there who can just immediately answer. And so that we can go through and build into it that when they're stuck, they can basically hit the check button, and it tells them kind of what they've done wrong up to that point and what they need to resolve. That to me is probably one of the best features that's there, because then the users can keep moving forward. They can know what they've done, and then they can go back and resolve that so they can keep learning and not just be stuck and stop. People learn best by doing. That's just, I know I'm that way. I know everyone I know is that way. You learn best by doing. And you feel more comfortable with it by having done it. And so as people are trying to learn a new product, if all they have is a document to read or some video to watch, then they're always going to be questioning whether or not they understood it. But by having a hands-on environment, especially one that verifies and tells them, yes, you did it right, then they feel confident in that they know what they're doing and that they've learned what they should have learned. And so it reinforces that, so they do learn it better. So the majority of what we use AI for with Instruqt is to help us create the solution scripts, the setup and the solve and the check scripts for the back end. That's our main focus for the AI. We just go to it and we say, hey, this is the problem, this is what they should do, make sure they've done it, and it builds it out. And so that's where we found the most bang for the buck, I guess you'd say, where it's just been the most helpful. Some for also helping just figure out the assignment, when you're writing up the tasks for them to do. AI has been helpful there, but the biggest help has been on those back-end scripts. For me personally, it's how many times do people ask me a question that the track answered for them, right? If they're not asking me questions that they should have learned by doing the exercise, then I feel that that's very successful. So we often share the tracks with them, and then they go through them, and then we'll have a meeting again afterwards to just kind of discuss, hey, do you have any questions? And most of the questions are, that was great, what do I do next? Not, how do I do this again? Or, can you explain this better? But because they had that hands-on, they understand it, they get it, and so the question is always, okay, what's next? And so for me, that's the big tell, is that they did learn it, they understood it, and now they're asking questions based on what they learned and where to go now. I do know that upper management, more so than not, because I'm the track builder, not the money manager, but I do know they are looking at the cost savings, so they could probably provide more insight into that. But for me, it is the number of people. In the last 6 months, I know personally I have shared the tracks with probably 40 different individuals, and many of them took the tracks. There's no way we could have facilitated that education without Instruqt as our tool, because we couldn't have gotten to all the people. Like I said, I've shared it with people in Europe and people in Latin America, and sometimes in the same week, in two different, that far apart. And so there's just no way that we could have provided that level of training that quickly across all the different people that we needed to talk to. Some are internal, some are external, and just everyone has that easy access to it. The reach that we've really been able to touch so many people with it so quickly. Basically, all of our education will have some Instruqt component. Everything we're looking at. We are trying to see how can we leverage that hands-on learning without having to make people travel the world, right? And so we are looking at leveraging everything from how to set up and configure our proprietary OS, all the way up to that end user knowing which button to push when they want to perform a specific action on that point of sale machine. And so long term, that's where we're going. Between here and the end of the year, our goal is to have all of the foundational stuff for our primary software available for everyone to learn. And we are probably 2 or 3 tracks shy of that. So we have 9 or 10 tracks available right now. And so we've got another couple that need to come out by the end of the year, and then all the foundational stuff will be done. And then from there, it's, what is the next thing that we've gotten a lot of questions on? And then we can build another track to help teach people that next thing. We can generally go from the concept of the track to the track built in 6 weeks. We've put a lot of stuff in place to make that happen, but because we can do it quickly, it does kind of change a little bit the answer. It's what are people going to need over the next year? Our sales team comes to us and the solutions teams comes to us and they say, hey, we need learning about this. And so we put it in our backlog and we get to it. And our goal, like I said, is anything that can utilize a hands-on opportunity, we're going to get it into Instruqt.